So is China watching me? Well, let me show you a little something here just to give you a taste of what's to come. You may be wondering why I have a picture of a woman exposing her bra over here. Well, we'll get to that, don't you worry. But I would like to talk to you guys very straightforward, very honestly. What the things I talk about in my videos regarding China are always based on my own experiences. If they're not, then it's something that I know is absolutely true based on what I've seen, again, based on my experiences. So let's talk about how China, first of all, monitors, people like myself, foreigners in China. It depends on your nationality as to how much monitoring you are exposed to, but because I'm South African, I fell into the African bracket, which is the undesirable bracket in China. And pretty much any country from the Middle East, Africa, and other parts of Southeast Asia, they get harassed a lot. Philippines, anything like that. But if you come from a developed first world country, be that Australia or America or, New Zealand or Canada, in the UK, all those kind of places, you tend to not actually get hassled. You do get monitored though. And by monitored, what I mean is you have an actual police person assigned to you in your district, and it's their job to make sure that they know where you are at all times, more or less anyway. And the first time I found this out, of course, was when I was in my own apartment. And I was going down in the elevator, and a plainclothes policeman started asking me a whole bunch of questions about me. And I didn't know who this guy was, and I just kind of ignored him. And I just said, hi, okay, whatever, and I walked away. Anyway, he came back later with a bunch of uniformed policemen to my apartment. This was back in 2006, end of 2006, early 2007. So that's the first time I was actually privy to this. I then found out, because I didn't actually know, but I then found out that by law, as a foreigner, when you enter China within 24 hours, you must report to your local police station, and you get something called a temporary residence permit, which kind of just looks like it's an information sheet that has all the information about you, your address, your age, your height, your eye color, all that kind of stuff. It's got a photo of you there. It has to be stamped by the police. And it has like a notes section where they have certain notes about you, that pertain to you. And what I found quite interesting is, when you leave China and come back in, you have to get it again. And this means even if you take like a day trip to Hong Kong and come back in, you're supposed to go to the police station. Not many people do. But when I had to renew my visa, I was actually changing to a different kind of visa. Every time that you go to apply for a new visa, you must provide this temporary residence permit along with all your other paperwork to the Public Security Bureau. And it was, I think, the second or third time I went to get this paper, I saw in the notes section, because by that time I could read Chinese, a lot of information about me which I had never told anyone. Things like I have a company in Hong Kong, because I did at the time. Me and a couple of friends had opened a company in Hong Kong, which, it's a failed idea, but we were trying to help people come to work in China and find work and things like that. And it had the name of my company in the notes. It also had certain things written in there, like he can speak a little Chinese, he has a girlfriend, things like that. So it had some personal information there, which I hadn't told, obviously the police. So that was a little bit concerning. But, I understand where I was living. I had no illusions that I was not living in communist China, and you expect that kind of thing. And to be honest, the cops, at least the local police guy who's supposed to be keeping an eye on me, was a really chill guy. And you know what? The police in general in China are very chill and nice, and they won't really bother you or get in your face unless you are causing a problem or, you're being belligerent or something. So I have to give that to them. Anyway, so it kind of went on like this for a very long time. But every time there was some kind of an event going on, like I remember before the Olympics, for instance, in 2008, I got several visits in the middle of the night, sort of 11:30 midnight, by large groups of uniformed police who would come to my apartment and hammer on the door, like in the middle of the night, wake me up. I'd go to the door, answer the door. They'd burst into my apartment, start looking around, taking photos of me, asking questions and demanding to see my passport and things like this. And this happened multiple times. And it was very unnerving, of course. But again, I understood where I was. and I understood why. In China, the idea of face kind of takes prominence over everything else. So to lose face is probably the worst thing that can happen to you. So when you're trying to do something like have the Olympic Games happen in your country, the last thing you want is an undesirable mess of a foreigner walking around, giving your country a bad name. And that's why they tend to try to target what they consider the undesirable. So Africans and Middle Easterners and Indians and so on, and give them a hell of a hard time. Because they racially profiled. It's just part of China. They don't hide it. If you can understand Chinese, if you walk around, you do hear a lot of sort of racially charged language depending on who you are. So even if you're white, you'll hear people either complimenting you or talking some nonsense, some kind of stereotypical thing they think about white people. And the same with black people, Indian people, etc. Because I have black friends and Indian friends and Middle Eastern friends, Pakistani friends, etc. And we used to walk around in Shenzhen doing photo shoots and things like that. And of course, I was always out on the street filming, like every day. And so I would hear what the public has to say in general. And that's the beauty of Shenzhen, is it's such a melting pot of China. You get people from every corner of the country who go to Shenzhen because it's a boom town. That's where people go to seek their fortune. So they all go there. So you get people from the east, the west, the north, the south, the center of China, all in the same place. So you get a very balanced opinion of what Chinese people think of black people or Indian people or white people when you can understand what they're saying. Because all you need to do is walk down like a shopping street or a touristy area where you got all these different people from different parts of China, and you'll hear the comments are quite similar. Anyway, I digress. So this whole monitoring thing gets very annoying. So me and other foreigners who've been living there for a long time, we do find ways around it. So for instance, I was getting sick and tired of being harassed all the time where I lived. So I registered myself in a different apartment, which I also lived in. So, when I moved basically to my new apartment, I didn't let the local sort of police station know that I'd moved to this new apartment. I still kept my registration in the old apartment. And I would go and re-register at that police station every time. And, they always ask, like, oh, where do you live? And I'm like, I still live in the same place. And they just renew my registration type thing. And I got away with that for ages because, every time they had to go and check, they'd go and try and check in this old apartment. And one of my old roommates was still living there. And he'd be like, oh, no, he's not in at the moment type thing. So they kind of left me alone. But you cannot escape this forever because what they do is, by law, any kind of property complex, so like a housing community, they have what's called a guanlichu, which is like I guess like an HOA or a management office. And they must, by law, report to the police if there's a foreigner living there, right? So you just need to be seen there often enough and they will call the police. And of course they know where you live because every single building's got CCTV cameras in them, in the elevators and all down the hallways and stuff. You cannot escape this. Doesn't matter if it's a hotel or an apartment complex in China. There are cameras everywhere. So they will know exactly which apartment you're coming in and going from. And so, of course, even though I was living in a new place now, I got a visit from the police anyway, asking me, like, what am I doing here? And I got away with saying, oh, I'm just visiting a friend and, I've been staying here for like a week, but I live somewhere else. And they left me alone for a while, but that didn't last. Eventually, they pegged me back to where I was. So, yeah, there are ways around it, but at the end of the day, they still find you. And what's even more frustrating is things like I was flying a drone on the top of the building where I used to live. I used to do that a lot. A lot of my drone shots I took off from the same place. And the security guards would sometimes come and talk to me about it, and I'd show them what I was doing and explain, and, everything was cool and all that. And, I kind of made friends with a lot of them. Like I said, nice guys. But, my wife would get a phone call from the sort of security HOA kind of place saying, oh, you should tell your boyfriend/husband to stop flying a drone, etc. Which, again, I'm all for that. If I'm not there to break laws or do anything like that, but they wouldn't tell me directly. They would go through their ways and means and contact my wife, which kind of is, a little underhanded. But you'll see that that's kind of a big part of how they monitor and keep control of people is through their families. So, you have a lot of that. Now, it did get quite serious when we went on our Conquering Northern China journey. We've told the story, and some of you may have heard it, so I'll just very quickly glance through it. But while we were in Inner Mongolia, we were raided by a SWAT team in our hotel in the middle of the night, and we had the PLA there, we had the local police there, we had the special police, the SWAT team, and they went through all our stuff, and they questioned us individually and interrogated us and separated us from our Chinese driver and interrogated him for hours. And during all of this, probably the most disturbing part was the conversation that Seamilk and I overheard in the hallway between a police investigator, a woman who spoke poor English, and the party leader, the Communist Party leader for the province or for that area, that town or city. And they were discussing myself and Seamilk, and they knew the names of our wives, they knew where we lived, they knew a lot of details about where we had worked previously, because they mentioned these things like, the university Seamilk used to work at, and all that kind of stuff. So, they have a lot of information about foreigners, and they keep a close eye. On top of that, through friends of friends, I don't want to mention anyone to get them into trouble, but I knew police people in smaller third, fourth tier cities, and we used to hang out and get drunk together, chat, and when everyone's drunk and being friends, people talk. And they, specifically my police friends in this particular third tier city, were telling me how they know exactly where every foreigner lives, but they've been told specifically that they have to keep a very close eye on the black foreigner that just moved in, and they follow him around and they make sure they know where he is 24/7, things like that. So there is this big surveillance system set up to keep an eye on foreigners, exactly where you are at all times. Don't forget, if you book into a hotel in China, you have to use your passport. You can't just go book in. They need to know where you are. And when you book into a hotel, they make a copy of your passport and your visa page and your latest entry stamp, and they send it to the local police station that kind of then gives you another temporary residence permit. And I know this because there are a number of times where I went to book into a hotel on my motorcycle trips, and actually coming down later from the room, the police would be there looking at the copies of my passport and stuff, because they either hadn't sent them in or whatever the case. What I'm trying to say is that there's a very sophisticated monitoring network for foreigners. And to be honest, Chinese local people as well, they also have to have a hukou, which is like a registration booklet for where they are, like a residence permit. And there's a lot of complications as far as that's concerned as well. And I knew a lot of Chinese people who were what they call Heiren, but it means black person, but not black person. It means a person without an ID. So in other words, they were born during the one-child policy, but they weren't supposed to be born because they're the second born or third born. And those people also have a hell of a time because they can't get public schooling and they can't get an ID card and all this. So they have to find ways around the system, and it can be difficult for them too. Anyway, I digress because this video is supposed to tell you about how they're trying to monitor me now that I have left China. And I can tell you what, they certainly have been trying their best. So I want to just go through a couple of things that have happened to me since I moved, because I've been out of China for a while now. So the first thing that they do is they constantly are trying to find out where I live. Okay, this is no joke. And I'm going to show you an example, and that's where this bra woman comes in. This is an example of an attempt to find out where I live. So what happened was I was approached on WeChat, as I often am, by random people who want to add me. And very often I do add people because, I'm not trying to hide from anything, and I genuinely am just happy to talk to people. But as you can see from my conversation here, this woman introduces herself as Gemma, and obviously that's not a Chinese name, so I'm not doxing her or anything by showing you that, because there's a billion Gemmas in China. So I'm like, "Hi Gemma, what can I do for you?" She says, "Good morning, Mr. Sturzel." So she knows my surname already, which, by the way, is not available in WeChat, because my alias in WeChat is SerpentZA. It doesn't have my name, so she knows my surname. "Do you have time for an interview this weekend, Mr. Sturzel?" So let's see. my reply here. I've blurred her face out, obviously. I don't want to dox her, just in case she is, not doing what I know she's doing. So if that makes sense. So I said, okay, interview for what? She sends a picture of me, picture of herself, to me, which of course is a little strange. She says, do you have time for an interview? Then sends a picture, and it's a cute, attractive-looking Chinese girl picture. So, interview for what? She says, being a vlogger for at least a decade, what's really satisfying you? ? So I said, speaking the truth. That's what I want to do the most. Because honestly, that is. So she's like, great. Are you available in your house, Mr. Sturzel? Maybe we can do an interview in your house. So that's very odd. Okay. Now, obviously what she's trying to do here is, well, there's a number of things that they're trying to do here. Number one, they want to find out my address. Okay, that's the primary objective of this. Number two is they're trying to get dirt on me. So that's why she sent this, well, it's probably some guy working for the government or just an ultra-nationalist. Sends a picture of a pretty girl, and they've probably created this fake account with a pretty girl's avatar and everything. So she wants to come and do an interview in my house. So I say, no, thank you. I'm very busy and I need to look after my wife and child. See, this is me signaling I'm not interested. But I can answer your questions here if you like, which I'm totally up for, having an interview. I don't mind. So she's like, great. Tell me when you are available, Mr. Sturzel. Okay, fine. Maybe I book a hotel room for the interview. All right. I mean, now it's starting to really be a bit ridiculous. Okay. So I said, haha, that's not necessary. Just ask me what you need here and I can answer your questions, or we can have an interview over Skype. What publication do you work for? Because now I'm starting to realize for sure this is just a bunch of bollocks and they just want to find out where I live or get some dirt on me. So I need to figure out. So she says, I work for SZDXXB, which I looked it up, and it's some kind of university department, kind of a journalism kind of thing, but it looks like a bunch of bollocks. So she said, sure, if you have time, we can have an interview over Skype, Mr. Sturzel. So I'm like, okay, sounds great, Miss Gemma. I look forward to it. Let's have a Skype meeting on Monday or Tuesday. So, I just want to keep it professional here. She's like, great idea. That's very nice. Then she sends me a picture of herself in the bathroom exposing her bra. Okay? And I'm pretty sure we all know that that's not normal. Okay? You don't do that. If she wanted to have an interview with me, this has got nothing to do with an interview. She's trying to catfish me here. What she's trying to do, like I said, is she's trying to tantalize me into agreeing to, okay, hang on, maybe, yeah, let's meet. Let's go to this hotel that you want to pay for. This sounds great. I'm not a moron, okay? I'm a guy, yes, but I'm not that dumb. I try to think with this head. Anyway, the other thing that they're probably trying to do here is they're probably trying to get me to engage in some kind of lewd chat where I start to ask her for nudes or, I don't know, get into some kind of sexually charged chat, which they can then take and use as ammo against me and expose to the Chinese internet to say, look at what a scumbag he is, this sex-pat, disgusting pervert or something. You know what I mean? That's the second thing they're probably trying to do here. Anyway, so yeah, she sends the bra pic. And then I say, interesting photo. Are you sure you sent it to the right person? She's like, just thank you. Yeah, okay. So you send me a bra picture to thank me for agreeing to have an interview with you. I don't think so. That's not how journalism works, okay? So I said, okay, thanks, I guess. Have a good evening. Wish you have a good evening, Mr. Sturzel. Thank you, Miss Gemma. You are quite welcome, Mr. Sturzel. Okay, so let's get out of there. I did get her Skype details. I added her on Skype, and I set up an interview time, and she completely just disappeared. Because obviously that wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to get my address. So they either wanted my address or they wanted me to go to a hotel so that they could either do something there to me or follow me home or, some kind of crap, or figure out what area I live in or whatever it is. And of course they were trying to do the thing to get me to say lewd things or do something with which they could then try to maybe blackmail me to stop making videos or do something along those lines. I wouldn't put it past them. There's all sorts of crap that they do. So that was one of the examples of what's been going on. The second thing that I've noticed a lot is a massive upsurge in attacks. Now, hate websites and hate videos made against me by people tied to the CCP have exploded exponentially since news has got out that I left China. All right, no joke. You can search SerpentZA exposed, or if you search on the Chinese internet like SerpentZA is a piece of shit or whatever, you know, these things have just exploded. And specifically after my video last week on Friday, when I released my video about why I left China for good, my wife started to get a huge amount of attacks from Wu Mao on her social media, on her YouTube videos, because she has her channel, who knows, and through various other forms of social media. A massive, massive upsurge of attacks against my wife and, of course, against me. Now, you have to ask yourself something. Why would you be attacking, specifically trying to attack someone's character or assassinate their character? The only reason why they do this is because they view my opinion as a threat. They view me as a threat, so they try their best to debunk me. I'm just going to give you a very brief example of something that was posted yesterday. Okay, so I posted on my Instagram this picture over here, which, you know, every time there's a little spat in China, some kind of political spat with another country, specifically with Japan, but also now with India, you get these sort of stupid, overly patriotic people crawling out of the woodwork. It's encouraged, by the way, it's never discouraged. And they put up signs outside their businesses saying no Japanese or dogs allowed, or no Indians allowed, or, you know, no French people allowed, or, you know, no Americans must pay 25% more, or, you know, there's a lot of crap like that. No foreigners allowed. That's been a big thing with the whole Wuhan flu, COVID-19 thing, is when they try to blame the pandemic on other countries, they've got to a point where they have ostracized in a lot of areas foreigners. And they're like, oh, foreigners are the carriers of the disease now. So no foreigners in my restaurant. You know, I've talked about this ad nauseum in the past, so we're not going to go into it. But this sign literally says Yinduren, which means Indians. They mistranslated it and wrote Hindu, because they obviously used the wrong translation software. But it says Hindu is not allowed to enter the cafe. Okay, so this is from a restaurant recently in China because of the whole spat. Fair enough. So I put it on Instagram because I completely disapprove of this kind of behavior. And you see this a lot. And I've seen it a lot with my own eyes. So again, I'm talking about things I've seen. The Grey Wolf restaurant, which is a chain, fantastic food, by the way. And you get it in Shenzhen and you get it all over. It's like I said, it's a chain. They, on pretty much all of their branches, have a sign that says no Japanese or dogs allowed. And that's just part of it. They're never told that that's bad or you got to take that down, because in China, the majority of society kind of backs up that sentiment, and especially the government, because they keep pushing this rhetoric that Japan's evil and terrible and all that sort of thing. It's just kind of par for the course, you know, that people get used to just believing that's how you should talk about people from another country. And of course, I've seen it when it targets foreigners in general. And I've seen it when they're targeting, for instance, here, Indians. And I think it's appalling, because it doesn't matter what country you're from. You cannot blame all Indian people because of the actions of the government of India, or a few. And the same with Chinese people. Just because the CCP is a disgusting, horrible government, it doesn't mean when I see a Chinese person on the street in California that I'm going to blame them for the actions of their government. Or I'm not going to blame them for the actions of the Yulin Dog Festival people who burn dogs alive and stuff. I'm not going to say you are responsible for that, because it's not true. So to ban all Indian people from your restaurant just because of a political spat is racist, it's discriminatory, and it's bullshit. And that's why I put it on my Instagram, because this kind of shit has to stop. And the Chinese society as a whole has to stop supporting this kind of behavior, because they support it, and that's why it continues. Nobody goes up to them and says, hey, that's racist, take that down, or, you know, you probably shouldn't be doing that. No, everybody walks past and probably goes, hell yeah, you know. Anyway, so here's why I'm bringing this up, is immediately yesterday, Shang Yunfan said, don't believe what this guy said, Indian friends. We welcome you at any time as long as you respect our country. This guy is living in the USA now and getting paid by CIA for their anti-China agenda. This restaurant doesn't represent the other Chinese people. So, okay, first of all, just like I've always said. That doesn't represent all Chinese people, but it is something that's happening in China and something that's condoned by society because it's never stopped, okay? And my answer to him was, this is a restaurant in China. I didn't say this or write this. A Chinese person in China put this on their restaurant in China. Go to try and stop them. Don't try to stop me because I'm only showing the truth. And that's the thing. Look at his comment. He says, don't believe what this guy said. What did I say? That is a picture that I posted, an actual truth. You cannot debunk that. That is a restaurant. I can send you the Google Maps address, and I'm not going to do that because I don't want to create a hate doxing kind of atmosphere. But that is a picture in China, written in Chinese by a Chinese person outside a Chinese restaurant. That's not me telling lies. But because they cannot accept the truth, because it's a loss of face, they must attack me. And so now all of a sudden I'm a paid CIA, anti-China agent. That's who I am apparently. First of all, I'm not American, but the CIA doesn't pay me. If they want to pay me, feel free to reach out. I'll gladly work for you. I don't care, but I don't work for them, unfortunately. So anyway, what I'm saying is the ramp up in all this kind of, all of these kind of attacks against me and my family and my friends' family just shows you how intimidated they are by my opinion and how worried they are that I'm now going to start speaking my mind because I've been very self-censoring. Although, truthfully, over the last year or so, I'm pretty sure you've noticed that I've stopped self-censoring a lot. I still do. And the reason I completely why I self-censor the very bad, dirty laundry stuff that I not only have video footage of, but I have tons of experiences and other witnesses to back me up with. The reason I don't air this stuff and haven't aired it up until now is because of respect for my Chinese friends and of course my Chinese family, because I know that loss of face is so important to them, and it's not something that I would willingly do unless of course there was a proper cause to do it. If I knew that it would help people, I would expose that kind of thing. But what I talk about is hopefully just a caution for people and to help people, you know, navigate all the pitfalls in China and not get themselves into serious trouble. Because when you're dealing with China, and I'm talking about the Chinese government, of course, and Chinese society as a whole, really, you can very, very easily come unstuck. Anyway, I love the fact that they think I'm a CIA spy. So look, the majority of the monitoring of me is an online sort of a monitoring. And it's so easy to see that it's still going on because of the forums that are set up in Chinese, on the Chinese internet, which constantly discuss me and my movements. You see, the dumb thing about these people, especially these nationalists, is they do not think that I can read and understand Chinese, which has been their biggest fault, or their biggest flaw, because they have open forums on the Chinese internet which constantly discuss my movements, they constantly discuss my wife, they constantly discuss my family. So they'll have long discussions about, oh, he must be living in this area because we've seen this in one of his videos, or this and this. Oh, this is what we should do to try and stop him now, etc., etc. So they are monitoring me. The government, through its vast spy apparatus, which is basically just nationalistic Chinese citizens, are keeping an eye on me at all times. And they're constantly trying to, that catfishing thing I showed you earlier with the bra girl is just one of many, many attempts that have been made against me to try and find out exactly where I live, and in order to try and intimidate me. They're trying to stop me because they're worried about what I have to say. Whereas, you know, if they would just stop this nonsense, setting up hate websites, setting up hate forums, directing their cronies to make attack videos against me, etc., etc., they would probably realize that I wouldn't be provoked into speaking out as much as I do. But unfortunately for them, it's now reached this point. So I will be making a series of China's dirty laundry. And I will be starting with the mild stuff, and I'll move up to the worse stuff as we go along. So you can look forward to that in the near future. Anyway, guys, I'm done with this topic. I would like to hear your super chat questions. My patrons, by the way, have sent me a bunch of questions. In fact, one of the questions sparked the idea for this video. I'm making a separate video to answer every single one of your questions in depth. This is to my patrons, but to everyone else here, we're going to take some super chats. So let's see what we've got. All right, the first one we have here is, how do you practice your Chinese? This is a very good question because Chinese is one of those languages which it's tough. In order to actually learn it correctly, you either have to be diligent in your studies, or you have to be living in China or in a Chinese community where you're constantly exposed to it. So I do find some of my Chinese slipping here and there, but I take it upon myself to talk to my wife in Chinese on occasion. Of course, our child is growing up and we want her to be able to not only speak English, but also Chinese. So we're trying, with my wife, it's more Cantonese because she's Cantonese. We're trying a little bit of that. So, we have a lot of bilingual books and things. So, it helps me as well keep up the practice. All right, Waterfalls guys, thank you very much. That's from TMD. 12 Ken, thank you. Brian, thank you. Matthew Smith, love your videos. Here's all my Google money. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Michael Crandall, appreciate you guys. Over 20 years working with international students. I get you guys. Love the Chinese people and culture. Exactly. You see, I have no love for the CCP and its dastardly deeds and the ill effects it's had on Chinese society. But at the end of the day, I'm all for Chinese people. And I do get contacted very often by Chinese people. And like I say, I simply cannot expose their names. I'm kind of like a fall guy for a lot of these people because I'm out there and I put my face out there and I'm constantly being attacked and people trying to dox me. But I understand that I can stand up to that, but a lot of the Chinese people can't because they've got too much to lose, So they do contact me often and thank me for what I'm doing to talk about the problems in China, which nobody ever dares talk about because, there's just too many repercussions. Okay. Thank you very much, Eden Valley Drones. Thank you. Sushant Pandita says, China, pay for the deaths of hundreds of thousands, pay for Hong Kong, pay for Tibet, pay for destruction of so many lives. Well, yes, I would say CCP rather than just China, because once again, you can't conflate the two. You can't say that China, the country, is the CCP. They've been trying for so many years to make people think that China is the CCP and is inseparable, but actually it's completely separable. I mean, look at Taiwan. Taiwan is Chinese people, Chinese culture. It is a different country. People there are fantastic. They've got a different outlook on life. They've got a wonderful democracy, so you can separate the two. Okay, SerpentZA, can you get in trouble for using a VPN? Yes, you can. If you're a Chinese citizen specifically, foreigners kind of get away with it, but you're not supposed to be using a VPN in China. So, you have to just be careful. Don't go running around telling everyone you're using a VPN, basically. Cheers to my two favorite YouTubers. Thank you very much, Rockin' Roxy. Okay. And I got 100% from Amrit. Thank you. All right. Hugo. Hey, Winston. I've been watching you for many, many years. Your videos enamored me with China, its culture and people. But now the taste has turned bitter in my mouth. Keep doing what you're doing. Yes. And I sometimes I feel like maybe I misled people, but I didn't. You have to understand that when I did start to make my videos, China was a different place to where it is now. It was under a different leadership. As far as a president, I should really say chairman, dictator, whatever. But Hu Jintao was in power and things were different. When Xi Jinping took over, things definitely took a turn for the worse. And China went from this wonderful opening up, expanding, growing, friendly place into a closing down, unfriendly, xenophobic, it's not our fault, it's your fault kind of place. And, when you're down there on the ground in China, you will still be able to see lots of friendly faces because at the end of the day, the Chinese people are very, very, very hospitable, hardworking, nice people in general. So, you won't see the wood for the trees in a lot of cases, but when you've lived there as long as I have and you've gotten so much insight into the workings of the government, having worked with the government for many, many years, you do understand just how bad it is compared to what it was. So my advice to you, though, is if you're enamored with China and Chinese culture, look to Taiwan. No joke. Okay. Jeremiah Johnson, thank you for all the hard work you do. I really enjoy all your channels and works. Snag me some silver bullets. Oh, yes. Snag some silver bullets. Oh, I'm totally going to do that. You know I am. Glad at least one of you has good taste. Sorry, C-Milk, joking. You boys rock, stay safe. Thank you very much. Super appreciated. And silver billets incoming later. John Stevenson Jr., thanks, man. Thank you. Frederick Paydeer, hey you, how's it going? Hedsky 1200, here's a small donation, given that you're the second best thing out of South Africa after Omar Rusks. Yeah, Omar Rusks are cool, but I've got to say Biltong, Duravois, and Buravois probably a little bit higher up than Omar Rusks, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, some Chinese PUBG players got pretty upset when I said Star Wars, not a mom. What? Okay, all right. And Simon Quincy said, all I've got to say is XD. I gotcha. Can I send the super chat to your house? I just need the address of your house. Exactly. That's what we're dealing with here. Both myself and C-Milk very often get approached by random people through various different social media forums trying to trick us into giving them our address. Now, of course, we can't pretend that it's always the Chinese government trying to get this information, but it certainly is the ultra-nationalist Chinese netizens and Wu-Maos that are trying to do it on behalf of their government because they feel that attacking anyone that's seen as an enemy of the Chinese government is the patriotic and right thing to do. So they go to some serious lengths. And you have to just think about how sad this current situation is, where you've got, young adult men spending and dedicating their entire existence into trying to upset and destroy my life and my family's life, C-Milk's life. You're in the prime of your life. Get away from the keyboard, my man. Go out there, have fun, have a beer, meet some girls, do whatever. But, it's sad that you're focusing on me, a South African white guy living in the US right now. Check your priorities. You're never going to start a family this way. Okay, so thank you, TMD. You and Matt both love China. You both love the Chinese people. You just don't like the CCP. Absolutely. Shifted your support from patron to subscribe star. Thank you very much, The Art of the Real. You are my one and only subscribe star subscriber, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Daniel Wilcox, why is the Chinese CCP paying Western Wu-Mao a lot more RMB than the Chinese Wu-Mao? Isn't that racist against... Yeah, okay, look. You would have noticed by now an uptick in foreigners currently either living in China or at least close to China. Just 1 second. Can we close that window? There's yes. Sorry. There's some outside construction noise here. I thought I'd leave that behind when I left China, but I guess not. Sorry. You've seen an uptick in Western people, YouTubers, etc., living in China. Not just YouTubers, like some kind of like pseudo-journalists and stuff who live in China or have big interests in China, sort of financial or, romantic or whatever. Basically praising the hell out of China and attacking anyone who doesn't praise the hell out of China. And it's very simple and straightforward. It's not for a Western audience. It's not for you. Because if you go watch one of these guys and they saying just outrageous stuff like Chinese people don't need democracy, they don't need freedom or individualism, that's authoritarianism is good for the Chinese people, or that kind of crap that you see these people saying, or whatever they go on about, because it's a bunch of crap. The reason is they want Chinese people to see that, because it's an unfortunate thing, which I am completely against, but still in China, this idea of having a foreigner say something has more clout and is more important. It's like a form of white worshipping that still goes on in China to this day. That's why they hire white monkeys to pretend to be an expert in something, or a doctor or whatever, to put in adverts and stuff, because your average Chinese person sees the words coming out of a Westerner's mouth as more trustworthy than the words coming out of, a Chinese person's mouth in the same position. So Chinese doctor, Western doctor. Western doctor says it must mean more, or must be more true. So that's why they are encouraging, and they encourage them in various ways, either by monetary reward or reward as far as support is concerned, because there's an army of nationalists who get directed, oh, this guy is saying good things about China, go subscribe to him. go, click upvote, go do your thing. And, like 1 billion people go over and subscribe, and they're like, oh, this is working really well. Let me continue like saying all these positive things. So the whole point is, it's not for you and me. It's for the Chinese audience that manages to escape the Great Firewall of China, looking for truth, and all they find is a foreigner there telling them exactly what the CCP's been telling them all the time, and then they're like, it has to be true. So that's the reason. Okay, Joe B, thank you. George from the CIA, keep up the good work. No worries, man. I'll meet you in, what's that place? Pensacola? No, what do they call that? Never mind. Quantico. I'll meet you in Quantico. Hey, that's the FBI, sorry. Okay, Mason Kohler. Waiting for COVID-19 restrictions to lift so I can apply for scholarships to go to uni in Taiwan. You and C-Milk have been a huge inspiration to me. Thank you for showing it's possible. Love from Oregon. Fantastic. You will love Taiwan. It is one of the best places in the world. And I'm saying that as somebody who's never lived there. I've visited there plenty of times, and I know lots of Taiwanese people as well, and I grew up with Taiwanese people, so I can tell you that you're dealing with, good folk. Are you worried about my ex like I am? No, she's fine. She knows what she's doing. TMD, Hong Kong Island belongs to the UK in perpetuity. Fact, it was only the new territories that were leased for 99 years. Well, look, there's a lot of holes that can be poked in that old agreement, and it was signed with a different government to the current government, so, it could actually just be thrown out the window. But at the end of the day, it's all politics, it's bollocks, and the people of Hong Kong are in serious trouble at the moment, and we're going to have to look at that closer in our upcoming podcasts, etc. You should visit Romania at some point. It's an ex-communist country. It's still awesome. Keep up the good work. Absolutely. C-Milk and I have been planning to do a European, like we do ADVChina on motorcycles. We're planning to do that through Europe. And of course, not just the usual places. We want to go all over Europe. So we're looking forward to doing that. Thank you. Aaron, Tech Tips and Tricks. Ni hao. I just want to tell you that I love your videos. Thank you very much. And I really love you guys too. So, and you specifically for that. Thank you very much. Santi, for a tall can. Yes, a tall can's coming. It is Friday, and it's a ritual here over at the ADVChina team little office that we have. Is, everything we do, my channel, C-Milk's channel, the Worthless Whips, the ADVChina, the ADV podcasts, it's only the two of us. There's nobody else involved in this. So we kind of treat ourselves every Friday to a couple of drinks. It's a weekly ritual, and it's coming. Can't wait. And I would love to have a couple beers with you on camera, but you never know what might slip. Anyway, Rajit Naik says, thoughts on India TikTok ban and US may ban it too. Look, personally, I hope it gets banned, but at the same time, I want it to be banned for the right reasons. I don't want it to be banned. I don't like censorship in general. I don't think it's a good idea to just censor things because you don't like it. But TikTok is 100% under the control of the Chinese government because every single tech company and every company in China must comply to requests from the Chinese government. If they say, I need all the usernames and passwords of all of your users, they can't say no. They can't deny the government. So if they want to say, I want everything on that person's phone in America who's got TikTok installed on it, I want to hear their microphone and see their camera right now, they have to comply. They must. They cannot say no, because if they say no, the government will shut them down. And so what I would like to see is for TikTok and so on to get banned because they are breaking the law and breaking privacy laws. That's why I would like to see it get banned. Just like if a company sells poison in a country, like let's just say you've got Coca-Cola starts selling rat poison in their cans, then they get shut down and they're no longer allowed to operate within the borders of India, for instance, because there's rat poison in the cans. That's what I'd like to see with TikTok. So I wouldn't like to see a tit-for-tat thing. Oh, China blocks everything. They block Facebook, YouTube, everything, you name it. They've blocked everything now. There's nothing they haven't blocked, except for Chinese apps, pretty much. But it shouldn't be a retaliation to that. It should be they've broken the law, so we've got to block it. Tweety Bird, kisses from the CIA. Thank you so much. Mark Joanno, do you think the UK is doing the right thing? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I haven't been keeping up with the latest. But if you're talking about the whole 5G thing, yep. Marco Polo, love your videos. Thank you and stay safe. You too, Mr. Polo. Tim Wolf, Will you visit Norway and Switzerland? Yes, like I said, during the European thing. And Adam, yes, that's correct. Arjun, do you think you can ever go back to China? No, I don't. I have to be completely honest with you. When I left after filming Stay Awesome China, my last documentary. During that trip, once again, I came very close to getting basically disappeared. Now, we had a massive scare during conquering northern China. And then when my friend Michael, one of the two, my Canadian Michaels, got disappeared and is now being charged with espionage. I know the guy is not a spy, okay? He's just a very convenient scapegoat and a way for China to try and force their hostage diplomacy to get the Huawei CFO released. And it's transparent. That's all they want. They arrest high-profile Canadians so that they can try to swap, basically. They say, oh, we'll let them go if you let her go, type thing. When he got disappeared, that was when I was like, you know what? I have to get out of here. This is it. So after he disappeared, I was already making my exit plans. And I realized that it would be unsafe, especially since I've started to talk about the more sensitive things and I've been a little bit more harsh with my criticisms of the government, not the people. Remember, I'm not trying to throw Chinese people under the bus here. It's the government and the society that enables these horrible things to happen. And these human rights abuses, etc., which, again, are part of my China's Dirty Laundry aired series, which will be coming up. I realize that it's stupid. I still don't try to cross the line too far or too much because, of course, I got family there and stuff. But, you know, what can you do? I won't be silenced by a disgusting regime. So unless things change politically in China, I will not be going back. No. But that doesn't mean I don't have fresh new content coming out of China because I have a lot of friends there and I have a lot of people sending me. In fact, this background that you see behind you was taken 3 days ago. All right? That, 3 days ago. So don't you worry. And things are not going to get stale around here. Here's some funds for the tinfoil beer. Tinfoil or beer. I think the beer will do. Thank you so much. Have you been to the flooded regions? Well, I lived in the flooded regions most of my time in China. Look, the floods are real. It does happen all the time. I've been in situations where I was riding in a bus and it was evening and this massive downpour came and the bus got flooded out. In fact, the water came all the way into the bus, all the way up to my thighs. The bus had to stop. Everyone had to wait in the bus because the doors couldn't open. It was a big mess, but luckily it didn't rise any higher. Otherwise, I would have been smashing windows. But we were stuck there for ages until the floods subsided a bit. It is a real thing. Drainage is a huge problem in China, especially in the south. And what's happening now is kind of crazy. And you don't really hear that much about it, do you? That's because it's bad news. And bad news never makes the news in China. Unless, of course, it's bad news in America or elsewhere. Grace McLean, the uncomfortable truth is troublesome for them. Yes, that's the problem, is truth. You know, I'm not here making lies. I'm not telling lies. And if I was telling lies, I'd be very happy if someone pointed it out correctly with a counter argument. Or if I show a picture of, hey, look, there's a sign in China that says no blacks allowed, but somebody comes along and shows me, no, that's not true. That's photoshopped or something. Yeah, that's fine. But when you've seen it with your own eyes, you know it to be true. And when I show something, it's real. It's not something that I've made up. So it's truths that, unfortunately, really gut the Chinese idea of face. They feel gutted because it's an unfortunate situation where one Chinese person will feel embarrassed and upset on behalf of the entire nation just because some random other Chinese person did something bad. And the idea of individuality hasn't really set into Chinese society. So here, if I see a crazy old homeless man out there or something doing something really terrible, like kicking a dog to death, I'm not going to say, all white people are bad, or all homeless people are bad or something. I'll say, there's a crazy old piece of crap who's just kicked a dog to death. I better go do the same to him, It's pretty much what'll go through my mind. But in China, if a Chinese guy beats a dog to death and sets it on fire and you point it out, they're like, you've just insulted all Chinese people. You've made us all look like dog killing, beating, all that kind of crap. So you see, that's why there's such a harsh reaction to some of my videos, is because they cannot separate the fact that I'm pointing out the bad eggs and I'm not trying to generalize the entire nation of people. I'm saying this happens. It has to be stopped. Why is it allowed to happen in Chinese society? And they're like, oh, just a couple of bad people. Well, a couple of million, hundreds of millions of bad people because you got a huge population. Put a stop to it and stop getting offended, because I'm not, if you're a decent Chinese person, I'm obviously not addressing you. Okay, down with the poo from Canada. Thank you, Willen. Any thoughts on creeping Chinese influence in Commonwealth countries like Canada and Aussie? Yeah, dude, look, that's arrested pain. China already owns Australia and most of Canada too. So if you really want to hear more about this, you should be keeping track of our ADV podcasts. We talk about this very often, and we talk about the things, especially in our soft power hour. So please, every second Thursday, tune into ADV podcasts to find out more. And you can go back and watch them because we've covered a lot of these things. William Hamilton, have you had a video about North Korea kidnappings? Do they also kidnap Chinese? I'm very curious about the subject. Great channel, by the way. I don't have a video about that, but I do actually have a lot of experience on the North Korean border, having met North Koreans, having had dinner with them, having had performances by them, and there's a lot of video footage which unfortunately we have but cannot release because it would put the girls who were performing for us in mortal danger. And it's
I literally have a video about that.
Yeah, we have.
No, I made
you made okay.
North Korean border and kidnapping.
Oh, you did. Okay, you can check out
China and North Korea.
All right, Sea Milk has one called the China in North Korea.
North Korea in China.
The North Korea in China. Okay, so go take a look. Okay, Ahmad Salmin says, "Keep up the good work, brother. Love your channel." Thank you, and you too, mate. I will, like I say to a lot of my subscribers, as long as you keep watching, I'll keep making. So, Sakul, would you move to Taiwan now? Why not? Yes, of course I would. Right now, because I've just had a child, it's not really on the cards for me to move. Also, don't forget that my wife is mainland Chinese, and so for her to get a visa to live there is going to be difficult, if not impossible at the moment. So, but if you're just speaking in general, would I move to Taiwan? Absolutely, I love Taiwan. It's fantastic. It's a lovely place. The Goose, thank you. Terry EVP, thank you for being very polite. All the best to you and your family. Stay safe. Thank you very much. Patrick Cruz, keep exposing the corrupt government who doesn't represent their people. Absolutely. Brandon Calderon, so you can buy a strange-looking obsidian bracelet from AliExpress. Keep up the hard work. Yeah, I think it's also, they say, odd-looking. This odd-looking bracelet. And you better not lose it or suddenly everyone's going to die around you. Anyway, James Borden, thoughts on the CCP handling the flooding along the Yangtze? Yes, again, like I said, it's no news is good news as far as they're concerned. So they just quash all the bad news. There's tons of video and footage going out there. But one thing that I saw was something released by actually the state media in China showing some of the devastation of the floods in Yangshuo. Yangshuo is this massive tourist town. Of course, you cannot keep that under wraps because it's like a lonely planet destination. It's an international backpacker heaven and people go there. So they can't be like, oh, nothing to see here because there are too many eyes on that area. So they released a video about it. And the gist of the video was, look at how, the hardworking locals are helping rescue everyone and all that. That's all nice, kind of puff piece. But at the end, they blamed it on global warming. So they blamed the fact that the whole town got pretty much destroyed on the fact that, companies overseas and stuff are producing too much pollution, rather than saying, well, we probably should have looked at our drainage system. So yeah, it's just another one of those things. That's how they handle it, man. It's all deflection. It's deflection. It's never the fault of the local government. And remember, there's a reason for this, and it's called the mandate of heaven. The mandate of heaven is something that's built into Chinese culture and all the dynasties in the past. Basically, if the Chinese current leadership is not performing well, then a big natural disaster comes as a sign from the gods or from the universe to say it's your time to end. So every time there's a huge big disaster like the Sichuan earthquake or these floods or whatever, the CCP has to scramble really hard to try and minimize the impact of this because they do not want the local Chinese people to think that this is the mandate of heaven saying it's time for you guys to get on your bike, get the hell out of here, and let's get someone good in your place. You know what I mean? Chris W., thank you. Lee Lawe, thank you. Lady AGH, thank you. Will Raycard, thank you. Would you say that the CCP is just this as the CIA are monitoring and that it's an authoritarian regime? Been watching your stuff for a while. Keep it up. I mean, look, yes, we cannot deny that Western governments also have their fair amount of, monitoring of their, residents and so on. But, the thing is with the CCP, it's very in your face. And it's not done discreetly, let's put it that way. Randall Bell. Your dad's stories are very good. Good luck. Thank you. And I appreciate that you've seen his channel. His stories are, I grew up listening to them and experiencing some of them firsthand. And it's been quite the adventure. Africa is still a very wild, untamed place. And it's quite the place to grow up. I'll tell you that much. Felipe Gomez. Goeiemorgen. All the best from Madeira land, Portugal. Thank you very much. Goeiemorgen means good morning in Afrikaans, which is a language I speak as well. Because I had to learn it in school. Okay, James Burlow. You got the life with that wife and daughter. Thank you so much. I'm very proud of my family, and it's just one of those things. The baby's a miracle baby. My wife, I never thought I'd meet somebody like her. I always thought that, that wasn't for me, and I did. I'm incredibly happy. Thank you. XRTBO. Great work. Also, you guys need a Mustang on Worthless Whips. Yeah, no joke. I'd love to work on a Ford. I haven't worked on one except for this Crown Victoria we have. But I'd love to work on a proper Ford, like a Mustang would be awesome. Taylor F., you inspire me to stand up and speak truthfully. Thank you. It's always important. And it's a difficult task because people who speak the truth are very often called out. To stand up and to stand out often means you get hammered down. People don't like to hear the truth. It's not comfortable. People like to go along with lies or go along with convenient ignorance of the truth, basically, because it's just easier. It doesn't upset the boat, you know what I mean? So speak the truth, but make sure that you're willing to deal with the consequences. Kitty Cats, what's the rationale for the CCP stopping Chinese citizens or Hong Kongers from immigration from the country? Well, you see, when Hong Kong is a lot of wealth, okay? Hong Kong is where basically it was always much richer than China. Obviously, there are cities now which earn a lot more GDP, so-called GDP, than Hong Kong City. But when people leave Hong Kong, they take a lot of wealth with them. They take all of their wealth with them, basically. And they're worried about, like, the capital flight, basically. And they're worried about people moving all their assets out. That's what they're worried about the most. And they also worry about not being able to control those people because the Communist Party of China relishes the control that they have over Chinese people, even the diaspora overseas. That's why they have all these Confucius Institutes and sort of Chinese student associations and stuff, which are really just an arm of the United Front and part of the Communist Party, there to spy on and keep their citizens outside of China in line. And they also see their citizens abroad as assets to not only spy or to get information and intellectual property and stuff to bring back, but also to send money and wealth back into China. And to eventually return to China when the time is right. So, it's a very complicated setup. It's a many-feathered bird. Eric van der Zee. Oh, that's right. I forgot you're African-American now. It's actually quite funny. In my neighborhood where I live, there are actually very few white people living there. Mostly Mexicans and the bunch of black people in my community. And, I walk past and there are some black kids playing there. But they're like American to the T, with baseball caps and running around skateboarding and stuff. And I think to myself, what a very, very strange situation I find myself in here where so-called African American is a pure American. And I, as an African who was born and grew up in Africa, like an African immigrant type thing. It's the most bizarre kind of a weird situation. So at the end of the day, I'm all for people in America just being called American. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's see what's next. Jones 117. Keep on fighting the good fight, man. The world needs brave people like you more than ever. Thank you, and I do hope that we see more and more people standing up to just the absolute bullshit that's going on in the world at the moment. Rather than just pretending that it's not there or hoping it goes away, because it won't. It just keeps growing. Thank you, Mary O'Brien and Taylor Jackson and What the Va. And we've got like Loro Imperial. Is Mandela a hero or a villain in your opinion? I'd say both. He's definitely responsible for a lot of heartache and death and so on. And, don't forget he was labeled a terrorist by the FBI international watch list and stuff until recently. He was responsible for bombings of train stations and churches and sort of public places, and that's kind of unacceptable in my book. Even if you're fighting a revolution, don't go after civilians, go after military or government installations. Anyway, he did also manage to unite people and make sure there was a smooth transition over to the new government. So all people have their good and bad sides, and I would say that he's equally a good man and equally an evil man. Let's put it that way. Dave Murray. Never saw you so angry. I'm sorry, Winston. How is your family now? Oh, my family's fine, thank you. And I will always make sure that my family is at least what's within my control. Fine. Dog says, SerpentZA, would you please go through the list of jobs you've had while living in China? What were you doing when not shooting videos? It's a long list. I did quite a lot, but the majority of my early work in China was English teaching. I taught kindergarten, and then I moved to training centers. I taught a bit of middle school for some local government schools. Then I went to, like I said, joined a training center, and it was a high-end training center. So the thing is, it was called CCVIP, and it was run by this guy called Song Shanmu, who turned out to be this terrible rapist. It's quite a story, and I've still got photos and interesting things to show you from that. That'll be part of my upcoming series. But then I moved on to another high-end training center, which exclusively taught large businesses, software companies, and so on. That's how I got into Tencent and into other software companies and stuff, kind of in the Silicon Valley area of China. So I used to go in and train managers, also business etiquette, English, that kind of thing. And my final job, which I had before going full-time into YouTube, was working for a medical training company where I used to train doctors. And what I used to train doctors in is medical terminology. I had to study something called the Merck Manual. Anyone who's done medical stuff knows what a complicated ball like that is. But medical terminology, hospital rules and etiquette, just cultural differences, because these doctors would go overseas to either Australia or Germany, and they would do an intense 3-month internship. So they would need to know how to survive and how not to break the rules in the hospital and how to fit in. So there was a lot of cultural stuff, and of course basic English as well. So that was my main job for about 5 or 6 years, was the doctor training thing, before I moved directly over to YouTube only. Okay. The Goose. You're like a South African Tommy Robinson. Keep it up. Stay safe. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, I guess. I appreciate the sentiment. Okay. Damage says, maybe you should just stop criticizing the CCP. And I say to that, no, bollocks. That's what everybody wants. Why? Because then they can continue to get away with what they're doing, because nobody's calling them out. At least these days people are starting to wake up a bit. But that's the problem. And that's what the CCP does, is through intimidation of your family and your friends and your social circle. They really, really do try to shut you up. And that's not going to happen, not with me. But thank you. Burke14. Yeah, I'm going to try and ramp up the answers here, guys. I know I've been going on a bit too long here, but let's see what we can do. My wife and I were watching at the start of the virus. We live in Texas, and it's bad right now, but we're okay because we saw you and got ready. Well, thank you, and I'm so happy that you did. And it's only people really who've had to deal with China for a long time who could see through all the bollocks and realize what was coming. And I really just wish more people had listened to us. And I really wish more people these days would stop easing off and thinking that it's getting better and easier, because it's still a big issue and we still have to deal with it. But anyway, thank goodness finally the world has woken up to the situation. Thank you. Cesario JPN for the Taiwanese Beer Fund, since they won't sponsor you in Sea Milk. Exactly. Man, Taiwan Beer, reach out.
We already did reach out.
We reached out, but they didn't get back to us. They're missing such a golden opportunity. Ray W. I went to middle of China a couple of years ago. Never understood about why. When they got great hotels and I got a business one, they never told me. You did. I don't get the question there. But, you know, in the middle of China, if you go to more rural areas, it's often very difficult to find a hotel that will accept foreigners because they need a special permit and all that. But that's, I don't want to get into that right now because that's a long thing. Okay, Iman K. This is from the NSA. You're doing a good job to expose the CCP. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm waiting for my paycheck. Proto Man, Raiders hat. You're going to rob a shop after this? The reason I'm wearing this is...
Scum.
Okay, first of all, my lovely wife attempted to cut my hair because of this pandemic. And she did better than last time, but still made a bit of an oopsie. So I kind of look like a punk with a mohawk type thing. So I'd rather just wear the hat. And I specifically wear this hat to annoy Seymour because he hates the Raiders for some reason.
For some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the logo.
I don't like criminals.
Okay. Roland S., what can you say about the new federal state of China? Just another pipe dream to remove the CCP? Yep, just another pipe dream, but it's funny. Kai Wang, as a Taiwanese, I just wish more Western to know the difference between China and Taiwan. Yeah, me too, man. And I hopefully can educate a few of them. MJ Pelmier says, +1 Taiwan. I lived there for years. Great people and great food. Thanks for speaking out on these issues. Go Raiders, says Free Flow. Hating that you have to go through all this BS, but glad that you're addressing it head on. Stay awesome. Langley is the CIA. Okay, Langley. So Langley, please reach out. One day at a time. Keep exposing the CCP. You are a courageous man. Stay safe. Thank you so much, and I certainly will. Whimsy, thank you for being a man of principle. You're making the world a better place for all. I really appreciate that. And, you know, there's nothing great about me. I just cannot stand injustice, and I will always try my best to show the truth. And you can call me out on it. If I've ever said something that's a lie, I promise you it wasn't because I was intentionally trying to. It's like, I try to back everything up with evidence. That's why it took so much, you know. I have such a massive library of B-roll and just crap that I filmed in China because that's all I was doing every day. It was going out and filming. I've got terabytes and terabytes and terabytes backed up in various locations for all you Wumao trying to find me. And it's good stuff. It's not like expose crap. It's all showing the daily life of China and the awesomeness and the cool stuff and the scenery and the cities and the people and the lifestyle, you know? Yeah, there's some bad stuff in there too. TMD, waterfalls and beers don't mix. Matt, what is a waterfall?
I've answered this like 3 times now.
Answer it again.
What is it? They kept super chatting me because I had to pee.
Oh, you had to pee, right? That's right. You told me once.
I think I told you like 100 times.
Okay, anyway. William Swenson, obviously the CCP takes your channel seriously. On another note, did you lose a bet? No, I didn't, but I've already explained the hat thing. Schmucko21, married into a Vietnamese family and love learning about Asian culture through you guys. The culture may not be the same as Chinese, but it's very similar. You know, that's the thing. When we were in Vietnam, we noticed exactly the same. Don't forget that China kind of ruled Vietnam for a while, and they're right next to each other, and they share pretty much the same culture. You know, the same holidays, the same sort of religious ideas and beliefs and things like that. So yes, they're very much the same, but they're not the same. I don't want to insult either side here, but they're very much the same. Okay, SerpentZA. Watch the recent video from the FBI director. They said anyone who's being attacked by the CCP in this way should contact them. Yeah, I mean,
it's true.
Maybe it's not a bad idea.
It's an order.
Oh, okay. All right, maybe I can start working for the FBI. That'd be awesome. Or at least...
No, it's not for a job. It's like referring people that are being harassed.
Referring people. Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Well, then I would be working for the FBI because I'd be referring people that are being harassed, myself being that person.
You're not getting compensation.
No, not compensation, but I am at least helping them out.
Sure.
So maybe then people could really say that I'm helping out the FBI.
For real though, just to clarify, there's a lot of Chinese Americans that are trying to get the word out that if you're a Chinese American or a dissident or anyone and you're being harassed in the U.S. by other Chinese people, it is a CCP thing, and you should definitely contact the FBI.
Yeah, look, I actually want to bring something up. Remember, it was last year, they caught a bunch of people in Irvine, California, driving around in fake Chinese police cars that were marked as the sort of communist, the special police, the Turjin, you know. And these people are part of this whole fox hunt thing. And the whole point of this fox hunting, which we're going to do a whole big video on that, so don't worry, it's coming up. But the whole fox hunting is the CCP's way of trying to intimidate dissidents and people who fled China abroad, try to intimidate them, keep them quiet, or force them to return to China, things like that. So they do things like get these guys to drive around in cars that, because it's written in Chinese, the local dumb Americans don't know what the hell that means. Oh, look at those squiggles on that car. Meanwhile, it says like the CCP's all-seeing eye is here to keep you under control. That kind of thing. That's part of this whole fox hunt thing. So I'm eagerly watching that story to see what happens to the guy that they arrested, because they arrested one and they couldn't find the other guy who was driving around in these fake Chinese police cars. But that's part of it. So we'll get into that. Harry Aberley. Contact Steve Bannon's podcast, War Room Pandemic. They'll love your story. They're anti-CCP. Yeah, I know, but at the same time, I feel like appearing on a show that says War Room just doesn't seem very credible, to me. But yeah, I'll take a look at it. I've never looked at it, so I'll see. But thank you for the idea. Morton Trestol says, I know maybe you can't get into this, but your friend Lau86's Chinese name Ma means that he took his wife's family name? No. Ma Xiu is Matthew. It's, like when I got my Chinese driver's license, I had to get a Chinese name. You need to have a legal Chinese name. So rather than go through a complicated process of figuring something out, they just do a phonetic translation. So mine is Wen Si Dun. And the wen is wen jiao bao the wen, it means like warm, or, it's got the Sandian shui, that wen.
Yeah, because everyone knows that.
Oh, sorry, okay. I'm talking Chinese radicals, which I shouldn't be. It's totally radical, man. No, seriously though, if you were to translate my Chinese name, it would mean something ridiculous, right? It's like, doesn't make no sense, but it sounds the same as my English name, Winston and Wen Sudun. Same with Seamilk's name, Matthew and Ma Xiu. So the Ma is just a random ass, what is it, the horse radical?
It is.
So horse, which Xiu, fix horse.
I'm a horse fixer.
He's a horse fixer.
It's a cool job.
Maybe you're that guy like a blacksmith putting on the shoes, horseshoes. Yeah, okay. All right, let's see. Daniel Wilcox, if I was a Chinese Wu Mao, I would be real mad at my Chinese CCP government because they pay Western Wu Mao a lot more money than they pay me. That's racist against the Chinese Wu Mao. Absolutely, man. I agree with you. But remember, they pay a lot of these Western Wu Maos not with money. I know they do pay some of them with money, but with fame. So they give them TV appearances and they give them incentives. They set up social media accounts and send a lot of followers their way and kind of compel all the nationalists to go over there and support them. So they support them in that way through fame and notoriety and stuff. Marshall Bean. I wouldn't work with the CIA. Your perspective is most valuable without a political sponsor. Love what you're doing. Of course, that's a joke. By the way, I do think you need to study to work for the CIA and be like, study at Langley and Quantico and all that stuff. No one says, just wanted to say your videos helped me study Chinese and I decided to apply for a scholarship in Taiwan. Fantastic. I'm always happy to hear that. Okay, we're almost at the end here, guys. Philippe Gomez. Huyamora. In that point, any opinion about Huawei? Cheers. And Hoshikani. Okay, I will quickly talk about Huawei. Number one, they do make good products. Number two, all of their products are copies of other people's IP. So they haven't actually developed anything. They've stolen everything and they've developed on some of those stolen things. But, it is just a big knockoff brand. And they do it cheaply, and that's why they've managed to infiltrate the world, because their routers and their network equipment is subsidized by the Chinese government, which makes it cheap as balls, so it's really easy to buy. If you're a company overseas and you want to outfit your entire building with, networking equipment and cell phone towers, whatever the heck stuff, buy Huawei because it costs half of what the competitors cost. But at the same time, you're opening yourself up to security risks, because Huawei is, once again, a Chinese company under the Chinese CCP directive that they must report to the CCP. And if they want to get a backdoor into your business, Huawei must provide it to them. And that's why there's been such a thing about the security of Huawei. And another way to tell if somebody's on the CCP payroll is if they're very pro-Huawei. So if you're watching someone's YouTube video and they start talking about, oh, look at my Huawei phone, it's so great. Or, hey, I'm going to go to a Huawei store and show you what it's like inside. Huawei is better than Apple. Then you're dealing with someone very disingenuous. Gensu Wanton says, hi, I have a question in the chat. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't read the chat right now because of my setup, so I apologize to that. And I hope that I can answer through one of the other questions here. Orc Monkey 2000 says, I used to work for an insurance company that was bought out by a Chinese conglomerate. Seeing UNC Milk talk about how it controlled the CCPs over Chinese companies makes me glad I left that place. Yep. Anyone who's had that experience would know. Francisc Giboli, I'm Romanian Canadian, and I'm proud that we are continuing our extradition trial of the Huawei CFO. And so am I, because, you know, the law is the law and it should be followed, and you shouldn't be strong-armed into breaking the law just because it's inconvenient and because the person is rich. You know, that's the whole point of having a law that's separated from government, because in China it's not like that. If you're well-connected and rich and you get accused of a crime, you don't get charged. You know, either you don't get charged, or the accuser goes missing, or you bribe your way out of it, or somebody else takes the fall, or you work out something with the higher up in the government and you get let free. So, you know, that's why they cannot fathom this whole thing. That's why you get those stupid statements coming out of the Chinese state media saying that the Huawei Meng CFO is worth 100 Michaels, you know, because they believe that somebody who has money and rich and connections is more valuable as a human being than somebody who's just an average person. That's the big problem with the Chinese government, is there's no equality when it comes to people. People have different levels in Chinese society, and it's very stark, and it's acted upon by society and the government as a whole. Gensu Wonton, can you make a video of foreigner that love Chinese people living there and don't think government is an issue? China's good list. What should they look out for? Worried they might fall in the blacklist suddenly? Yeah, I've kind of discussed that already, but we'll talk about that more. Farva, what about the Three Gorges Dam? We'll see. I mean, they're obviously doing everything they can to make sure it doesn't fail, and good luck to them. So let's just keep an eye on it on Google Satellite View. Farva, thank you. Tumix, thank you. Chippus S, let me know when you guys make it to the Q's. What is that? C-U-S-E? Q's?
Syracuse.
Oh, Syracuse. Okay, all right. Will do. Brian Klein, Winston, I have followed you and your buddy for years now. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on Trump standing up against China and how China is really taking it. Our news lies. Yeah, that's another topic. I'll have to make a whole video about that, to be honest. But thank you for the suggestion. I'm Trekker. Throw a few back for me, one for yourself, and one for me, since I'm allergic to alcohol. Stay awesome. Definitely will. Thank you. And Simon Kunz, had I known my message would be read out aloud, I would have had something more intelligent to say than just XD. Okay, thank you so much for a lot of great content. It's a pleasure, mate. Frederick Paydar, thank you. And Frank Martinez, I had a representative office in Shenzhen in 2008. I'm so sorry to hear about this problem with the CCP. I had good people working for me in China, wonderful people. Cheers from San Diego, California. Absolutely. See, again, the people are the reason why I actually give a damn about China. If it wasn't for the good people, I would just simply unleash on the place. It's the people that have kept me from going full, I don't know even how to express it, but I love the people of China. And of course, I'm married to a Chinese person. My child is half Chinese. I have nothing but love for the Chinese people, and to be honest, the people around the entire world. A couple of people, not included, of course, but that's the thing. The CCP is where I have an issue. Diversity and Comics Bear. You and your partner need to stop publicly giving out your tips and tricks to thwart the CCP. You're going to make them crack down harder on people who are still there. No. If you're still there and you're supporting what they're doing, then it's really a fault of your own. And it's something I came to realize a long time ago. We would always try to keep the other foreigners in check. When you get a foreigner who's causing trouble or outspoken or something, we'd be like, stop, you're ruining it for everyone else. You're going to make the police crack down on us. They're going to do this. But then I realized, why are we supporting living in an environment where that kind of thing can happen? Why is it if some crazy nut at a bar wants to go get drunk and stumble around and smash a window or something, and then all foreigners have to suddenly be punished for that? What kind of a bullshit situation is that? It should be that stupid drunk guy should go to jail, and that's that. He screwed up, and everyone looks at him as an example. Oh, look, if you get drunk and smash a window, you're going to go to jail. But all of a sudden, we find that all the other foreigners have to try and police that guy because we're worried about what's going to happen to all of us. It's bullshit. What kind of a society are we living in? You know? Is this a prison? I don't know. Anyway, Matthew Curedon. I lived in Beijing for 14 years. Your comments ring so true. Another great report. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. And yes, it's usually people who have lived there long term. And I must add, people who can properly speak the language, or even just marginally speak the language. Because you can live there in a bubble and not know what people are saying. Just imagine there's a guy next to you in a restaurant saying, I hate all foreigners, I'm going to kill them. That's an extreme example, but you don't understand that. You probably think he's just saying, wow, this food's delicious. And you think everything's hunky-dory and great. You have to be able to understand the language to know what's going on around you. Super important. Okay. Chipicus S. Let me know when you guys come to the queues. Again, absolutely. Can't wait. Guys, I really have to wrap this up. So I'm just going to scroll through very quickly here. Gregory F., thank you. Do you think China and India could turn up into a regional war? I think there'll be some scuffles, but that's about it, hopefully. Abel Gonzalez, thank you. Zai I4R, thank you. Sushant Pandita, the ADVChina video of North Korea border was very fascinating. Would be great to see you guys do more videos of such interesting places. Thank you. And we do have more footage, and we're hoping to release it eventually. Stunt Cracker, I have a Xiaomi phone. Does the CCP have all of my data? Only if they want to. Cambapelo, has Seamilk been monitored like you? Yes, he has. Absolutely. We're both in the same boat here. Case closed 93. Do you have a better hand gesture for coffee yet? Yeah, that got me into some trouble. Thomas Junfalt, great channel. Keep up the good work. Jennifer, I love how the CCP are blaming other countries for global warming and pollution. I know, right? Isn't that the best? Nicholas Canning, thank you. BGO216, thank you. Been watching you for years. I'm glad you're safe. Hope the Chinese people have a bright future. So do I. Absolutely. Asia Man, £5. Okay, he donated £2 and said £5. All right, thanks, Asia Man. Nicholas Jones, have you ever eaten African American soul food? I read that it's similar to South African food.
It's not like South African.
Oh, it's
food.
not. Okay.
We eat Southern food all the time. Collard greens, barbecue, fried chicken.
Oh, I love Southern barbecue. Isn't that so good? Yeah, dude. Where was it? Where did I go? Memphis? No, St. Louis, Missouri. I had amazing barbecue there. Okay, which better for small business? China, Taiwan, or Taiwan or Vietnam for a small business? Taiwan, yeah.
You get protection.
Yeah. You can. That's the thing about Taiwan is it's a proper democracy and they have proper laws and you get free healthcare and stuff. It's great. Sam Moffat, thoughts on Amazon requiring employees to remove TikTok from their mobile devices if those devices have access to corporate email? Yes, hell yes. Dion Chapman, don't get a bloody Ford. They're bad luck. Okay. Yeah. Account inactive. Sal jou 'n bietjie Afrikaans vir ons praat. Xie, jayo. Nee, ek sal nie. Sing Afrikaans, sing. Ek kan die taal praat, maar ek is souties. Is nie so goed nie. And what I basically said was I can speak the language, but because I'm a British South African, my Afrikaans isn't very good. Although get me a little drunk and get me angry and I'll start swearing in Afrikaans.
Ask me how I know. Fucking
yeah.
annoying.
It is annoying, I know. Yeah. Anyway. Nicholas Canning, huge fan, Winston. Love the AW11. Watched you since 2012. Disabled and autistic, and you show a world I can't see. Well, I'm very happy, and I'm very glad that you watched the AW11 videos, because man, was that a difficult car to fix. I single-handedly did all the bodywork and mechanics and everything and fixed the suspension, and it was a pain, but it was fun. Dustin Pearson, thank you, Winston, for illuminating all that the CCP are trying to cover up. Inspired and full of gratitude. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Winston, one question. What's the story with the people turning around with the exclamation mark and the surprise on your videos? Those are evil uncles, and I use that Metal Gear Solid reference for when you get detected by the guards, because those evil uncles are basically old Red Guard, and what they do is when they notice you, give you that suspicious look, 9 times out of 10, they go and report you. So they go to like the local Bawan, which is a security guard, or the local police, or they'll phone someone and say there's a foreigner with a camera here. So I just do it as a joke, as if I've been spotted by like the communist guards, Frederick Salin, a Chinese company with ties to the CCP, is running the local traffic in Stockholm and the national railway in Sweden. Should I be worried? Yes, you should. Yes, you bloody should. What's this? Piana Hall. Hi there. I can imagine having a kid is quite expensive, so here's a small contribution to keep up the good work. Thank you so much, mate. And yes, it is expensive, especially in Southern California, but you know what? It's totally worth it. And you realize one day you just have to stop being selfish, and start to raise a family, and you would think about, I've got this money, I could buy myself something, but then you realize I should probably just pay for expensive medical insurance instead. It's a sad day. Rainer, continue with your entertaining videos. Greetings from Sweden. Thank you, Rainer. And Free Thinker, still waiting on you guys to eat the bunny chow. I showed him bunny chow. He wasn't impressed.
No.
He wasn't impressed, but yeah, we'll eat it. JKI 154A1. Hong Kong as a place is going through an oppressed phase. Do you think Hong Kong in the future will be able to recover from this? It's so tough to talk about, and we're going to have to talk about it more in depth on the ADV podcast. So please, if you haven't been watching that, we've been discussing Hong Kong a lot there. Luca, a hyper-homogeneous society has problems, but a hyper-individualistic society also has problems, and both believe they are the best. Good times. Very true. Should be a bit of a mix. William White, ever thought about going on the Joe Rogan podcast? Absolutely. We've been nominated a few times, but they never get back to us. I guess we're not interesting enough. Taylor Jackson, hi, keep up the good work. Appreciate all you've done. 12 Ken, can you use a connection flight through China? No. That would be absurd. Even a connecting flight through Hong Kong at the moment is a bad idea. You could just be snapped up. You could. If they don't like you, they can just snap you up. And if you want proof of that, Hong Kong and Macau, this is before this stupid new law, right? There's like a little bridge. They've built, not a little bridge, they built this massive bridge between Hong Kong and Macau. Macau is like a gambling, it's like the Las Vegas of Asia. So they built an actual bridge over the water, over the sea, from Hong Kong to Macau. But in the middle, obviously, as a support structure, there is a little like man-made island, and the bus that you're traveling on has to pass through that man-made island. But that man-made island is Chinese territory. And a guy who was traveling from Hong Kong to Macau to gamble, who was wanted by the CCP for some or other crap. Yeah, he was a dissident. Got taken off of the bus there, and they're like, this is Chinese land, and they arrested him and disappeared him into China. So you see, if they can do that with such a trivial kind of a situation, just imagine flying through Shanghai or Beijing as a connecting flight. Are you joking? You're toast. It's not worth it. Hong Kong too now. You should ride through Iran or Kurdistan. All right. Maybe. One of these days.
To China.
TMD, beer and waterfalls do not mix in, man. He keeps going on about this. Punk with a mohawk. Sorry, Sasha. Thank you, Mike. Will you come to the Czech Republic? Yes, absolutely. We can't wait. Thank you, Peter Smolik. And Quantum Slip, long term. How do you see things playing out internationally in China? Like, would the CCP still be around, etc., etc.? Yeah, it's tough to say, but of course they will do everything they can to hold on to power. TB Adventures, RIP Hong Kong. It's a damn shame. I'll never be able to go there as I refuse to step on land controlled by the CCP. Yeah, good for you, but it's a tragedy. Brian, the CIA is evil, Winston. The CIA is the biggest drug cartel in the world. All right. Well, I won't work for them then. Taylor F. Planning on visiting Amsterdam when you two end up in Europe? Absolutely. You know we will. We want to go everywhere if it's possible. We just got to wait for this Wuhan pandemic to go away. Ray W. Do the Taiwanese have a foreign legion? And do they have an age limit? I'm not sure, but I do know everyone has to do military service there. It's like conscription. A lot of my Taiwanese friends had to do it. Lilius, what's your opinion of the BLM movement currently sweeping America? Why do you suppose so many Americans see their own country as uniquely racist? That is a video for another time. And I'll tell you what, if I got a big one, a doozy coming as far as that's concerned. Old Gringo. I was somewhat skeptical of SerpentZA and C-Milk about their seemingly uber criticism of the CCP, but after some time I'm understanding them more and more. I've always enjoyed their informative and entertaining videos. Thank you so much, mate. And of course, you should always be skeptical. You never know if I'm a crackpot or something, right? Skadoosh. Been here 7 years. Everything you say is true. I have a business here that supports another business back in the USA, so leaving is not super simple. I understand, and I understand your position, mate. Philip Lemaster. Winston, keep up the good fight. Glad you made it to the USA, where hopefully you can grow your channel and message. Thank you so much. I can finally speak freely. Lucifer. lift the hat. Prove there's no CCP mind control tech. No. I teach English online for a well-known ESL company based in Shanghai part-time. Why would the CCP allow countless online English companies to have lessons with foreign teachers that at times get quite political? Well, if they find out you're getting political, you can be damn sure they wouldn't allow it. It's just because they think it's just harmless English teaching. And they do monitor that stuff, by the way. If they get a report from a student or a parent that the teacher has been talking about Tiananmen Square or something, you bet you they're going to fire your ass. It's happened to a friend of mine, actually got fired because he was talking about political stuff. George Wong. Hey, Winston, I'm British-born Chinese. Unfortunately, my family, who lives in the mainland, don't seem to share my despair that Hong Kong is no longer an autonomy. Of course they don't, because they've been told that that's correct. What's your opinion? We're going to talk about Hong Kong on the ADV podcast more. Michael Hirter, sell your worthless whipped Crown Vic to those food hunt guys and bug it for the CIA. That's a good idea. Truth out there. What's your thoughts? He means fox hunt guys, obviously. Not food hunt guys, fox hunt guys. That's a great idea. What's your thoughts on cancel culture? It's nonsense. Hyperdoc. Hiding your spy hair. Okay, Hunter King. Have you tried marijuana in the US? No, I don't smoke weed. I just never have. It's I smoked it once or twice in high school, literally like twice. I got a big issue with drugs in general, but it's a personal thing because one of my friends got completely destroyed by drugs and it turned me off drugs of all kind, including marijuana. Strangely not alcohol though. I'm a big supporter, even though it is a drug. Maybe because it's legal and doesn't lead you down a path of criminals and so on. And I get it. In America, especially in California, marijuana is legal. But I still have that hang up, It's like a chip on my shoulder, which I can't get rid of, and I don't understand why. Anyway, MQS, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I thoroughly enjoy all your videos. Stay awesome. Love from Canada. And Boaty McBoatface, New Zealand here. And New Zealand National Party MP has been removed from Parliament for training Chinese spies. Fantastic news. Amit Bhatia says, love your take on the CCP. More power to you. What would you say to people who plan to travel to Hong Kong/China for a vacation, a mini trip? Well, as long as you're not outspoken against the CCP, you'll be fine. Noel Ebert, there are a stunning number of open Marxist communists in the USA. Surprised me, actually. Thanks for the hard work. Yep. Nicholas Jones, get another GTO. You bet I would love one, but I have to downsize on my car collection. That's the problem with America. Cars are cheap, and especially the cars I've always wanted my whole life. So I tend to go overboard. And I went overboard, and I got into a lot of trouble with the wife and with my apartment complex because there's no place to park. So I had to actually downsize. I now only have 2 cars, and they're both similar. You'll find out. Watch Worthless Whips, and you'll see. Ben Tal. Thank you for the great videos from San Francisco. It's a pleasure. And blah, favorite football team? Manchester United. Ha. Old gringo. Yeah. Okay, AK Crazy. Would you have an episode about the Uyghur concentration camps? Yes, that will be part of my Dirty Laundry series. Peter Smolik. Do you think Vietnam is going to follow China's path? Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. If they really do become very rich and powerful, they might. Because that's when China changed over, is when, they started to become arrogant, Let's see. Katie Katz, Biden is a do boy for CCP. Maybe, who knows? I don't know enough about American politics yet. Danny, thank you. Jurassic Trance, thank you. Guys, I really have to stop here because it's getting a bit much. I will try my best to speed answer some of these questions. Darklit, greetings from Finland. Thank you. Been with me since the get-go. Thank you, Doug. Yes, I do recognize your name. Thank you. AH6Man, are you interested in riding through Iran and Kurdistan? I mean, yeah, sure. I'm interested in riding anywhere as long as we don't get, kidnapped and destroyed. Drawn Out Beats. Have you considered making a book documentary or tentpole video about your time in China? I actually have some pretty good documentaries, 2 which I did with Seamilk, the Conquering Southern China, Conquering Northern China, and Stay Awesome China, which I did solo. But they're all very good documentaries, at least in my eye, and I really hope you've seen them. It'll give you a pretty good insight into what we've done. Mohammed Shahawaz, wish you and Sesh all the best. Thank you, mate. You too. And Alan Torres, great work. Jayo, jayo, jayo. Long-term viewer here, imagine that. What a great resource you guys are. If ever in Southeast PA, come visit. Thank you. You got a vehicle to give us. Oh, thank you very much. Maybe we can do a road trip thing. Spin Viking, thank you. The peaceful is willing to. Is there hope for Tibetans and Uyghurs to get freedom? Not under the CCP rule. Sane person, come to Chile. Cheap drink, fun roads. Now that sounds like my kind of place. Maxinator, how many years, give or take, until the CCP gets as bad as the Democratic Public Party of China? A while. Come to ADV Blue Ridge Parkway. I'd love to. All right, guys. I have more or less reached the end, so I'm going to cut it off right here. I'm just going to read the last 4 questions. Casey, if you're going to live in a different state than California, which one would you choose? I like Arizona, and I like Montana, and I like Texas, and I like pretty much all the states I visited, to be honest. It's a tough choice. It really depends on the people, and the less snow, the better, obviously. You don't want your cars to rust now, do you? Fantastic. And the final one that I've got here is, my ESL teaching days in Korea are long gone. This is from Brintonius. Being an expat was amazing. Really enjoy your show about China. Very enlightening and educational. Thank you so much. And from Conrad, thanks for all you do. I love the Chinese people, not CCP. Texas loves you, SerpentZA. Thank you. I really think I'd get along very well in Texas, to be honest. But if you're in media, LA and that kind of place is where you should be. So that's why we set up over here. That's the main reason. And of course, the lovely weather and having a beach nearby is fantastic too. Jan A. Sunday, let's check out Cuba. Is it similar with China? Well, I mean, yeah, I can actually go to Cuba as a South African without a visa, which is really weird. I guess it's because Mandela had such good relations with Castro, but who knows? Anyway, guys, this has been a very long Q&A section, basically with a bit of a video tacked onto the beginning. I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for joining me for this. It's tough times, really, for everyone in the world at the moment, and we all just have to remain vigilant and keep an eye on what's going on. And of course, more importantly than anything else, we all need to stay awesome and, look after each other. So until next time, you know the drill. Continue to stay awesome.